Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Hooked on Heroes, with another review for Review Session Recap, of course, for Kamen Geats, episode 25 this week. I am really still deeply in love with the show. I like the slow drip lore that we get in pretty much almost every episode, and it continues here. So this is the first official starting thing to have anything with the JGP, right? We get to see Baraba introducing herself to the Jamato as the game master, giving them these little bells to wear apparently, and also she gives some to Michinaga, of course, and introducing the concept of the game and how that if they win they'll be announced as the Jamiati or the Jamato god basically, and can choose the world of misery of their choosing basically. Which I think is just a way for her to string along the Jamato because she knows that they're smart enough now that she's hoping they're stupid enough to follow through because she just wants to use them as cannon fodder for her own, villainous devices, if you will. The point of it is for them to draw out Chiram in hopes of defeating him, taking his vision driver so she can use both of them to gain access to the Desire Goddess, right? And so... so that's the point of it, and what they have to do is there's this festival going on, and they have to basically ruin it in any way, destroying property, making people upset, hurting people, hitting other riders, whatever. So Michinaga's totally with it, because he's Michinaga, and he's a dick, and he's got his whole must destroy all Kamen Riders thing, which I hope eventually starts to get some more depth to it, and starts to do a bit more with it. It's starting to get a little bit old, but it's not the worst thing. But Michinaga's mostly with it. He actually has a back and forth with Daiji, and he's like, why aren't you competing? He's like, do I look like a Jamato? He's like, you're closer to one than I am. And he kind of looks at his hand and sees the, infection has grown more, and he kind of pulls his hand away a little bit. After that, he meets up with a Jamato who presents itself as being Toru. It turns into Toru, his friend that got killed in the DGP. And it mentions that they found his ID core, and that he's pretty much Toru entirely. And he tells him, let's cause some mayhem, some destruction together, and blah, blah, blah. And Michinaga's kind of caught off guard with this because he doesn't want to believe that this is actually Toru, but if the Jamato are evolving like they are, like they seem to be this rapidly, it would make sense that it's possible to have a Jamato version of him that's still sort of him, just a little darker and more evil. But it's an interesting dynamic and storyline setup for him, and I hope that it continues a little bit. Not saying I want Toru to completely reform and become a rider fully on his own, but it would be cool to see at least what his rider form looked like before he got murdered in the DGP. And so he's on the team along with Michinaga and some two other Jamato riders and then some other normal Jamato. And it's cool because Baraba actually gives the two fever buckles to the Jamato riders, and we get to see them actually use them against our normal riders. They're of course completely perplexed and completely astounded that this is even happening and being allowed to happen. And Chiram says that he's going to play a game with her as much as she's playing one with him. She's not going to listen to her. He's not going to play into it and get lured out there. But he does want them to kind of compete. But basically they just want to help because they see that the festival's getting attacked. So they go out there to help and they're like, what are you doing? This is that's not part of the competition. They're like, doesn't matter. There's lives to save. And I like that. I like seeing that Neon, Ace, and Keiwa, all three are still very heroic in the way they do things, and that even though there's not a true goal and nothing about this that will add into them becoming the deity or whatever, doesn't matter. They still want to help people, and that's really important. I think that's really cool. We do get a conversation or two between Ace and Jean eventually. Happens later on in the episode about some really interesting stuff. But they get there to the festival. They're doing their fight and everything, and with Michinaga and everybody else there. And Michinaga actually hits Ace really hard, and you hear and he gets points. In the Jamato Grand Prix, you get extra points for hitting riders, which I think is really interesting. And so we also see the Jamato riders use the Fever Buckle. One uses the Fever Buckle and gets Monster. The other one uses it and gets Boost. And they take on Keiwa and Nago. They kind of kick their asses, even though Keiwa and Nago are more experienced riders and have their own, buckles that resonate with them. They're still getting their butts kicked. Even with using the Revolve On feature, they sort of do okay, but they still kind of get their asses kicked, which I'm kind of okay with. I do want there to eventually be something of a next power-up thing for each one of them. I think eventually, since we're getting, and spoilers for this, but since we're getting this Boost Mark II thing, and then eventually a Geats Laser Boost Mark II, I'm assuming maybe that it's possible that Keiwa and Neon will also get forms based off of things they get from their sponsors, but who knows. They fight, and then it gets stopped abruptly. And Baraba says that's the end of round 1, blah, blah, blah. And it's showing kind of the stats of like how much damage and chaos they caused and whatever. And so we get an interesting conversation between Gene and Ace talking about the future. And he's like, wow, this is so interesting. Like, this is so unique. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, how do you, like, why are you so surprised? He's like, well, because in the future, everything's pretty much cut and dry. It's set a certain way, and there it is. It's pretty much the same thing every time. There's no real surprises. That's why we, so much care about the past and doing things in the past, because it's something different for us, something unique, something to stir up emotion within us. And I kind of like this little back and forth with him and Gene, because it's starting to kind of build their like friendship a little bit. I don't think Ace will ever truly trust Gene, but Gene so far has not shown that he's like, trying to manipulate Ace in any way, or that he's using Ace. He's just the sponsor for him, making sure he has what he needs to compete competently within the DGB or JGB, whatever you want to call it. We also get some little moments interspersed. Oh, oops, that's my phone. Throughout, with the other sponsors. Keiwa specifically has one with Keikara, who says, what is a festival? He's like, you don't know what that means? We come from the future. I don't know. He's like, well, just because we come from the future doesn't mean we know everything about the past. He's like, you wouldn't know how to speak an ancient language, right? And he's like, well, I guess not. So he explains to him what a festival is, and Keikara really likes that, and he's kind of having this nice back and forth with them. Again, I like them growing their relationships with the sponsors, and I just want to see where that eventually goes. They have their little thing, and then Neon eventually meets back up with Kuan, who she doesn't know is her sponsor yet, which is interesting. And he says something about, like, they basically go back and forth insulting each other. Him saying that she has a daikon-like, like a radish-like personality, and her saying he's wormy and, weird. And basically he ends it by saying, you should be really careful about that, because you're never going to find love the way that you're acting right now. And she's like, huh, how does he know that about my wish? Because he's your sponsor, you idiot. We also get a super interesting conversation between Timefire, the guy that played him anyway, Nago's dad, and Chiram. And he's talking about, well, what's the plan? He's like, well, if all else fails, I'll just reset. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I'll reset the world. He's like, you can't do that. And he's like, why? He's like, because if you do that, I'll lose everything. Like, I'll lose everything I've built. And he tells him, I can't keep this up for much longer. I'm keeping, like, the government and police off you guys right now. I can't keep this up for that much longer. And so Chiram says, well, if only you were to maybe shower your daughter with the same amount of love that she's wishing for, maybe if you were a competent father. And he basically admits that Nago's dad, apparently himself or somebody that worked for him, put in a wish to him a wish to get a child, which we heard that in last episode, that there was a wish that someone wished to have a child. So Nago seems to be part of that, and it would seem that if Chiram or someone else were to reset the world, that we would maybe lose her somehow. Really unique, really interesting, really like out of nowhere, but a cool drop of lore there that she's not, entirely what we think she is. No, that's what he says. Maybe she wouldn't have to have the wish of, finding true love if you were to shower her with the love she deserves, being your child you asked for. Yeah. So that was a really cool little drop of information. But eventually we get some more scenes back near the festival and everything. Ace is talking to this one little boy, and it's basically just to involve a child actor and like a little lesson of the week about being strong and whatever. Second round starts up though, and Michinoku before this talks to Toru and everything, and they kind of reminisce about how they used to be like street gang hooligans basically, and that's how they met. And he talks with Baraba, and he says, hey, Baraba, like the other competitors, the other riders are pretty strong. I want to have what I need to defeat them. I need some kind of edge up, some kind of advantage. She goes, maybe I can think up a secret mission for you. Her secret mission is for him to get a like up close hit on a rider and score a bunch of points, and then the secret mission will be fulfilled. He does so. He gets Command Twin. Goes into raising form, starts using the sword, and he notices it needs a charge. He really quickly notices that, starts trying to charge it, isn't really working, tries pulling the buckle off, that doesn't work. He literally slashes himself, knowing he's, Jamato human hybrid zombie type thing. And it charges it, puts it on, and we get Command Twin Buffa, and it looks beautiful. It looks so good on the Buffa suit with the Buffa helmet. It looks so great. The colors work so well, and he's kicking ass too. last shot of it is him looking like he's about to kick the shit out of Geats. So overall, I thought this was a really exciting episode. I think it was nice. We got some little lore drops and some little individual scenes kind of like working on and strengthening the growing, budding friendship between the different sponsors and their competitors that they're supporting. I do think that Koa needs to hurry up with this whole Goofy not telling her who he is type thing, because I mean she's seen weirder shit. I'm sorry, but I do like that dynamic, and I hope that it continues, and that not that it is, but I hope that they can continue to have a decent dynamic. I also really like Keikara and Keiwa, and that Keiwa like is trying to like explain to his frog bro about what a festival is and everything. I think that's really cool. It's a fun little thing, and again, it's nice to see these little like slice of life type moments in the middle of all the battles and the fights and the blah 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 blah, right? So overall, really good episode. I love the little lore drops of stuff about Nago and a few other things here and there. Archimedo does mention something about that when Baroba had destroyed that one garden, that only so many Jamato survived, but the ones that did were the strongest ones he had. So we'll see if he stays as like a Finster type of Monster Maker villain, or if he goes away. I don't know for sure. But overall, I'm really liking it. I think the episode was really good. I am really excited for next week. Score-wise, probably give it somewhere around probably a 9 out of 10 or so. Definitely really good. Not as great as a couple episodes back, but still a decent episode overall. As far as stuff for the content for the channel this week, as we're recording this, I'll have my King Oger episode 1 review up alongside of this, of course, on the Hengens and Homies podcast this week, which, by the way, we just hit 100 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. We love what we do, and we love that you love what we do, so thank you very much for that. On the podcast this week, we'll be talking about our topic, New to Toku. We got you, kind of running you through like maybe some recommended shows, maybe where to watch them, stuff like that. And then also talking about our favorite crossover episodes, specials, movies, things like that. And pretty soon there'll be the Tokusatsu Showdown thing pretty soon that I'll be on again. So that'll be pretty fun. So look out for more information about that. But as always, stay hooked on them heroes. And I will talk to you later. And so bye-bye!